Idaho Matters is brought to you in part by St. Luke's Pharmacy, now offering free home delivery. For daily medications or one-time prescriptions, home delivery is easy to set up. It's convenient and safe. St. Luke's Pharmacy, now delivering to your doorstep. Information on how to get started at stlukesonline.org.
Love Boise State Public Radio podcasts? They are free to enjoy, but not free to produce. If you can give, your support helps keep shows like Idaho Matters and Scandalize available to everyone. Donate now at boisestatepublicradio.org.
From the studios of Boise State Public Radio News, I'm Samantha Wright, filling in for Jimmy Gaudette. It's Idaho Matters, and it's Friday. Time for our Reporter Roundtable, where we get you up to date on all the news that made headlines this past week. Tuesday's May primary turned the Gang of Eight into a Gang of Three in the Idaho legislature. American Falls has a new sheriff. Blackfoot's drought is so bad, the mayor has put water restrictions in place. Income has a new library, and law enforcement officers ran the Special Olympics torch through eastern Idaho. We'll have all that today with our panel, Lisa Lead with EastIdahoNews.com and Boise State Public Radio's legislative correspondent, James Dawson. Hello, hello. Thanks, everyone, for being here. How are you?
Good morning.
Happy Friday.
Hooray. Okay, Jimmy, I'm going to start off with the elections. The big news is the Gang of Eight is now the Gang of Three, who are, or I guess were, the Gang of Eight.
Yeah, the Gang of Eight was this gaggle of far-right lawmakers, if we want to use bird terms, right? Who relentlessly pushed to lower government spending. They wanted to enact deeply conservative social issues. And they were backed by a pretty powerful, influential, and rich PAC whose money comes from out of state, as well as, some wealthy donors in Idaho. But if you're thinking of examples, we've got the anti-transgender bills that have been pushed through the past couple of years, especially the proposals to ratchet up state immigration enforcement. They really supported those, which, that package eventually failed in the Senate. We're going to touch on that a bit later. But the Gang of Eight really made enemies of some of Idaho's most influential business lobbies in agriculture. So, a lot of these gang members were based in the Magic Valley. It's dairy country, and dairymen have long been pushing for sort of a year-round program or immigrant work visa to help solve their workforce problems. Because if you think about it, cows need milked, every day, sometimes multiple times a day, whereas picking crops really only takes a finite amount of time, so they don't really fit into the existing work visa programs here. And so they saw these immigration bills as completely detrimental to their entire industry as a whole.
Immigration, I think, is a theme in a lot of the election. So now it's a Gang of Three. Who got replaced by more moderate Republicans?
Sure. So you've got Senators Glenita Zeiderveld and Josh Cole, and then Representatives David Levitt, Lucas Kaler, and Faye Thompson. They all five of those folks lost their primary challenges this week. And we should say that their opponents who ended up winning still ran on a pretty conservative platform. This is still Idaho. They just weren't as far right on the political spectrum as those who lost.
Gotcha. And was this a change in the trend of more, kind of hardline GOP candidates winning races?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've been closely following and reporting on Idaho politics since, 2017, 2018. So it's been almost 10 years. And during that time, it's been a constant theme that far-right lawmakers might have picked up a seat or two in the House, maybe even a little bit more steadily over the last several years. And most recently, that trend has gone to the Senate, where there are only 35 legislators as opposed to 70 in the House. And so, that's a massive trend. Lots of money this year targeting Gang of Eight members, especially from Defend and Protect Idaho, which is a PAC run by the former Ada County Sheriff Gary Rainey. That PAC spent almost $740,000 on ads and mailers opposing these
Ooh.
legislators or supporting their challengers. That number could even increase, once we get the final fundraising numbers. But so far, for what they've had to report, 740 grand is a whole lot of money.
That is a lot of cash. Oh, wow. Okay, let's drill down into a couple of races. Senator Jim Guthrie faced a challenger. One of the main issues in his race was, there it is, immigration. Give us the background.
Yeah, so Guthrie is a 14-year veteran in the state Senate. He had a previous House term, so 16 years total in the state legislature. And like you said, he was right in the center of the immigration controversy. So Guthrie chairs the Senate State Affairs Committee. That's one of the most influential ones at the Capitol. It basically hears any kind of social issue bill or election related matter, immigration as well, federalism issues, things like that. And for folks who are new to Idaho politics or might not have paid like super close attention, committee chairs have immense power because they can kill bills unilaterally just simply by not giving them a hearing. So that's what Guthrie did. He kept this package of immigration reform bills in his desk drawer. And, that didn't make him very popular at the state house and with hardline conservatives. You even had the Idaho State GOP chairwoman Dorothy Moon being like, this is ridiculous. We shouldn't have chairmen who can, in her thoughts, suppressing the will of the voters to at least consider the issue. That's basically how he made a lot of enemies this year.
Oh, and those committee chairs, they are the gatekeepers. They hold a lot of power. So did Guthrie win against his challenger?
Yeah, so he was facing U.S. Army veteran David Worley, and we should say that his district is in southeastern Idaho, Bannock County, and some other counties down in the southeastern area as well. And he did win 53% to 47%. Guthrie, is kind of touted as a moderate. I'd say he's a fairly traditional Idaho conservative Republican. But he's routinely been challenged in the past as well and comes out on top every time. So clearly voters in that area of the state don't see a problem with him, putting certain bills in his desk drawer or the way that he runs the committee or the way that he votes in the legislature as a whole.
Okay, there was a similar case with Senator Dan Foreman. Why was he facing a challenger, and did he win?
He did win. Spoiler alert, I guess. He's another very conservative lawmaker. He represents North Central Idaho. We're talking, city of Moscow, Latah County, parts of Nez Perce County, Lewis County. And current Representative Lori McCann was hoping to unseat him. She obviously had to give up her spot in the House to challenge him. But it's interesting with him because he's a pretty conservative lawmaker. He's kind of gone back and forth too with, a Democrat at times holding that Senate seat. Moscow itself as a city is pretty liberal for Idaho. So there have been some interesting challenges there in the past, but he faced a little bit of pushback for also holding a bill in his desk drawer that eventually became law through stuff we don't have time to go through here. But this race was particularly a big loss for moderates. They pumped a ton of money into McCann's campaign. She significantly outraised Foreman more than 4 times over. She had like $76,000 or something like that compared to about 17 grand for Foreman. So, it was actually the exact same result, 53% to 47% in favor of Foreman.
Wow. Okay, so you are the legislative guru. What does the Idaho Senate look like now? Okay, and it's qualifier. This is a primary. It's not the general. We don't know who's going to win in the general. But with the wins in the primary, especially on the GOP side, if they won, would the Senate look more towards the center? How much of a difference would that make in the legislature next year?
Yes, just barely. Right now, we have a +1 moderate net gain in the Senate. So, but look, one vote in 35 among 35 senators can make a significant difference.
Yeah.
I talked to Boise State political science professor Jacqueline Kettler on the day after election night, I guess. And she rightly points out, look, some of these committees only have like 6 or 7 people on them at any given time. One vote holds a lot of sway. So, it can be something that's significant. It's not a lot, but it is a reversal, like we said earlier, in the trend of far-right lawmakers gaining power in the Senate. And we should also say that, at least as of right now, more moderate candidates in the House, we're at a +3 net over there. So 3 seats on the whole gained by more moderates.
Wow. Okay, Jimmy, and don't tell me your vote doesn't count just because of that, and also because, Lisa, there's a new sheriff in town. Just over 1,300 people voted in the election in American Falls to elect a new sheriff. Who won the race?
Do you know there is a new sheriff in town? Kind of. The winner of that race was the winner of the race was Casey Kendall, but he had actually been serving as sheriff since February. He was appointed by the county commissioners to replace Josh Campbell, the previous sheriff, who abruptly retired in February, and so the county commissioners appointed him, Casey Kendall, to go ahead and finish Josh Campbell's reign as sheriff. But he was also a candidate as to run for new sheriff, and he actually earned over 70% of the votes in the Power County election, which was kind of a contentious one between those 3 candidates.
Right, and he got a couple challengers, and one of those challengers filed a tort claim against the police department. This sounds like there's some backstory here.
Yep, that was what made this race particularly interesting. There were 2 other candidates, Michael Porter, and then the candidate that actually filed a tort claim against the sheriff department. He is a local paramedic in the American Falls area. His name is Jesse Johnston, and he alleges that one of the deputies, one of the sheriff's deputies a while back, alleged that he killed his wife, whom Johnston claims died from suicide in 2017, but rumors were being spread around town that he somehow killed her, which obviously he is adamant, saying no, he did not. And he is claiming that tainted the public's view of him, and that it caused him, to lose a lot of votes. And he has a tort claim filed for damages of $100,000 for defamation of character. But he continued to run in the race, which made this really interesting.
Wow. And like we said, 1,300 people, that, 1 or 2 votes could make all the difference, although he did get the primary, the most votes. So does he have a Democratic challenger, or is he pretty much it, barring any kind of write-in?
Nope, there is no Democratic challenger, so it sounds like Casey Kendall will actually be sworn in as the official sheriff in January.
Wow, fascinating. Jimmy, we probably should look at some of the big races from Tuesday. Governor Brad Little faced several challengers. How did he do?
Oh boy, I mean, he did phenomenally well. He had, like you said, there were 8 challengers.
Yeah.
So a very crowded field, and he came out on top pretty effortlessly. It seems.
Well, and it was an 8-way race. I was getting some Bill Sally vibes for a minute, where Sally became a U.S. representative after rising to the top of a very crowded race a few years back. So how close was Little's race? Was there any concern out there that he might actually lose the primary?
Yeah, good callback with Bill Sally. Also, for maybe people who just moved in, I think Janice McGeehan in 2018 in her lieutenant governor race as well.
Yeah. I think Little won by something like 60%, and his next closest challenger, Mark Fitzpatrick, was around 30%.
And that might not sound like a lot for maybe a 2 or a 3-way race, but it was an 8-way race. So you have Mark Fitzpatrick the next highest vote getter. So 30% is a massive, discrepancy between, in these sorts of political races.
Wow. Okay, so who does Little face in the general?
Yeah, he's facing Terry Pickens, who's a local attorney in the Boise area, along with former State Supreme Court Justice John Stegner, who's running as an independent. And this will be interesting to me for other reasons because, Little has raised more than $2 million just in his primary race. So it's going to be super interesting to see just how much footing maybe John Stegner could get, or if Terry Pickens could get more, support than the previous Democratic challenger 4 years ago.
And that leads me to Jim Risch. He faced some challengers. I think he won. Who does he face in November?
He did, yeah. He only faced 3 primary challengers. He took on Josh Roy, Jeff Evans, and not really any competition here. If you look at the results, Risch won with 67%.
Wow. Jimmy, thanks. I know you were up late and up early on election night, so appreciate all the coverage.
Thanks, Sam.
Lisa, before we went on the air this morning, I took a look at the Bureau of Reclamation's teacup map. That shows how much water is in all the reservoirs in eastern Idaho, and some of them look, well, pretty sad. I didn't realize the drought was so bad that Blackfoot was putting water restrictions in place. So tell us about the mayor and his proclamation earlier this month.
Yep. So when Mayor Stuffelbeam was first sworn into office, I interviewed him, and that was one of his biggest fears. Was that he was going to have to implement water restrictions due to the severe drought that we're having. And sure enough, he did that right at the beginning of May. He's implemented, he proclaimed that odd-numbered houses can only water on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Even-numbered houses can only water on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, and no watering at all allowed on Sunday. And he said that he was warned by the largest canal company in East Idaho that we could potentially run out of water by August, which is very, very scary. So that's what we're looking at.
Wow. Okay, so I looked up something like 12,000 people are on Blackfoot's water system. And I think you said the even-odd restrictions affect both homes and businesses, right?
Correct. Uh-huh.
And those aren't just for sprinklers. That counts even if you're just like dragging the hose out to water some flowers?
And yep, they said they really want to be careful, like dragging your hose out, watering your shrubs in your garden and your flowers, washing your car. They're going to watch, and supposedly they're going to fine people if you get caught disobeying the restrictions. You're going to get a warning the first time, and if you do it again, there's going to be fines and penalties.
Ooh, that's serious. Sounds very serious.
Yeah.
How bad is the drought in the area?
They said, they keep tweaking it from day to day. I've been trying to watch all the updates on it and stuff. But supposedly, just in a nutshell, it's the worst spring drought in East Idaho's history. And of course, we're a big potato farming capital over here in East Idaho. And that's basically where the concern is with the farmers.
Gotcha. And tell us about Jensen Grove, which I'm sad to say I didn't know about. What is it? Why can't the city fill it up this year?
So Jensen Grove has been around for a while. It's a man-made lake, and it's been very popular through the years for, fishing, boating, water skiing, that kind of stuff. But the water in it is contingent on water rights through the years. And I'm glad you asked about this because I do have an update. Initially, they said that it was not going to be filled this year because of the drought and because of the water restrictions. But the mayor of Blackfoot just 2 days ago gave us some really good news that they tweaked the water priority date a little bit, and they're going to be able to fill it. I just drove by it yesterday and it's filled, but it's not going to last. So they're saying get out there and enjoy the Memorial weekend because, once it goes down again, it probably won't get filled back up again. But right at this particular moment, it's looking pretty good.
Wow. Well, that's good because the picture in your original article, it was just, bottom.
Oh, dried up. Yep.
That's terrible.
Yeah, it's filled with water, and I think they're even filling it up a little bit more today as we speak.
Nice. How popular is Jensen Grove? I mean, this sounds like a pretty popular spot.
Through the years, I mean, it's been kind of the gem of Blackfoot. I mean, they did, we do all kinds of water races. They have it's kind of unique to Blackfoot where they race snow machines across the water every year, and that draws a lot of people. And it has a beautiful park with swing sets, picnic areas, and stuff. And it's a big deal for Blackfoot and East Idaho as a whole. It's a very beautiful little area when the water's full.
Wow. Okay. And you mentioned, pretty much you get a first pass if you're out sprinkling on the wrong day, but then there's some fines. There's some penalties that they're really going to back this up.
Yep, I believe that Mayor Stufflebeam is going to back it up. He seems pretty adamant about it.
Wow. Okay. Are you odd or even?
You know what? I don't live in Blackfoot, so
Oh, lucky you. Okay. Okay. So
I drive through there a lot, but I actually live in Pocatello.
Okay. Good. Okay. Well, then you don't have to worry about it yet.
No. Yeah, exactly.
Lisa, Inkom has a new library. Well, it has its first library. Tell us about it.
Do you know, I was actually so excited about this because I grew up in that area. I'm from the Marsh Valley area. So they had a ribbon cutting just this week for a brand new library. It's part of the South Bannock Library District, which includes Lava Hot Springs, McCammon, and Downey, Idaho. And they actually earned a grant and they opened it, and it's absolutely beautiful with over 3,000 books in it.
Oh, wow. Okay. So give us, for those who don't know where Inkom is, kind of place us, and then how far away did folks have to go to get to a library before this one showed up?
Yeah, so Inkom is probably just about 15 or 20 minutes outside of Pocatello. It's just right down the hill from Pebble Creek Ski Area, which is a pretty popular ski area for East Idahoans, and a lot of people even drive from your area to come and ski here. So it's just down the hill from that. And prior to this library opening, they would have to drive to Pocatello, which is, probably 15. The library, I think, was probably about a 20 to 25-minute drive away from Inkom, or go to one of the other small towns, which are all those little small towns are about 15 to 30 minutes away from each other, or they'd have to catch the bookmobile when it came to town, and that was always hit and miss. And so they just have this brand new sparkling new library with all kinds of technology and little corners for Idaho history and information, and I was just really, really happy for their community.
So this new library is part of the South Bannock Library District. How many libraries are there in the district?
I believe this makes the fourth.
Wow.
This one will make the fourth.
And you mentioned a grant. Where did the money come from?
You know what? That is a good question, and I was going to try to.
I stumped her. No, go ahead.
Okay, so the project was possible from the Idaho Commission for Libraries, whom awarded the grant. And they landed the grant in 2023 for $500,000. And and now it's all done.
And you were at that ribbon cutting, as you said. People were pretty happy, it sounds like.
Yep, there was a very good vibe there, and a lot of people came out, and I was in, kids came out, dignitaries came out, families came out, and I think it's just going to be a nice asset to that nice little community there.
Well, it makes a big difference. I mean, if you have to go 20 miles to get to the nearest library, you pretty much are stuck having to have a car, and if you don't, you're stuck.
And I know, having grown up there, I would have loved to have had that library there. I'm a bookworm, so I would have been thrilled.
Oh, man. Okay, and let's end on another happy note. Libraries are always happy notes. Why was Pocatello's mayor carrying a torch through the city recently?
Because it was the Special Olympics. They were running the torch through all the East Idaho communities, and our brand new, and it was actually involved law enforcement and local dignitaries. And our new mayor, Mark Dahlquist, actually carried that torch and ran it through Pocatello. And then the day after that, it was in Twin Falls and Shelley, and I believe it's headed your way here pretty quick.
Yeah, okay. This is when law enforcement officers carry the torch. I read that a lot of people participate in the run around the world. I think you had in your story 100,000 people do this. That's pretty crazy.
Yep. Yeah, I think once I tally it all up, from coast to coast, that's about how many are involved in it.
Okay, it started in Bonners Ferry. It's been all over the state. Yesterday, they did the Magic Valley Run. And as you said, it's coming towards this side of the state. Where is it going next?
Yep, so it's on hiatus for a few days due to the Memorial holiday. And then on Tuesday, they're going to be running through Mountain Home. And then on Wednesday through Ada County. And then on Friday, Caldwell and Nampa. And that's actually where it will end because the races are going to start in Nampa on May 29th.
Wow, that's really exciting. I love the story. It was a great story. Good pictures too. A lot of fun.
Yep, it was fun. Yep.
Wow, Lisa, I can't thank you enough for sticking with us and coming on the Reporter Roundtable today.
Thank you so much. It's been fun today.
It has. Our thanks to our Reporter Roundtable, Lisa Lee with EastIdahoNews.com and Boise State Public Radio reporter James Dawson. We're going to put lots of links to their stories at our website, boisestatepublicradio.org.
And thanks so much for listening to Idaho Matters from Boise State Public Radio. Do you have thoughts about today's episode? Make sure you email us at idahomatters@boisestate.edu or reach out on our socials. Are you subscribed to this Idaho Matters podcast yet? Make sure you're following so you never miss an episode. Hi, Idaho Matters podcast listeners. If you're on your smartphone right now, or if you have it nearby, I wanted to pop in to tell you about something to check out. Boise State Public Radio is now on Nextdoor. Here's what that means. Trusted local news, thoughtful reporting, and stories from across Idaho right along your neighborhood updates. If you already have the Nextdoor app, you're halfway there. Just search Boise State Public Radio and hit follow.